Okay, welcome everyone. So we have the next 30 odd minutes to talk about international expansion and how fintechs can do this successfully. So we'll touch upon how we tackle that operationally, from the marketing perspective, from the people and culture. But first, I'd like my panelists to just give a brief introduction about who they are and what they do. And Ramón, let's start with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, my name is Ramón Crespí. I'm originally from Spain, from the island of Mallorca, so just across the Mediterranean, the other side. But I have the pleasure of living in a country like Finland. I live in Helsinki. And I am a communication expert, and I help Nordic companies to communicate better. And the special thing about Nordics is that they do not give context, and they assume many things because they don't like to talk too much. So I cover those gaps, and I do it for corporates and scale-ups. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Duarte Garrido. I'm Portuguese-born. I've also had the pleasure to live in another country for quite a bit, in London for the last 11 years. I'm very new to fintech. I'm currently the VP Growth Marketing at Volt, but before that, my experience has been in FMCG, financial services, and media, always around marketing, of course. And at Volt, we are building the first network of networks for real-time payments.
I'm Simon Engelbrecht. I'm born in Copenhagen, Denmark, still live there. Married to a Kenyan Somali, so I also been doing a lot in East Africa, which is basically totally another culture. I've been working within fintech space for maybe 10 years within payment, banks, pension, mobile money systems, both in Scandinavia, but also in East Africa. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to do some mic sharing. Cool, so we have three really diverse perspectives, different experiences working in different markets. And I want to kickstart talking about kind of the operational aspect of international expansion. We touched upon this yesterday on the neobank panel and throughout the day yesterday, kind of neobanks expanding internationally and quite a few success stories, but also quite a few stories of failure. I think B2C is much trickier than expanding internationally from the B2B perspective. And Simon, what would you say are the keys to success when it comes to operationally expanding internationally?
Yeah, I mean, we touched upon it yesterday, and it was interesting panel discussions. I think really moving into a new market, a lot of companies underestimate the challenge of local culture. Basically, as I said, East Africa is probably a very long way from a Danish culture, but there's some good examples also from there. I think really understanding your users' needs. We've been seeing many new banks scaling to many countries at the same time, and I think really go and of course do your research. You know, what is the price model? What is the features that you need to implement? But also fixing the basics, because in a local country you can have people saying, okay, there's this new bank, it's much cheaper, they have some nice features, but then you have a lack of specific local features. So I've been seeing examples where people say, okay, I don't have the local bank account connected to this new service, and I cannot get my salary paid out. I cannot do my bills on direct debit, so it will be their second choice. They will sign up, you have a user, but they're not really using the card as their main thing. They might be using it for traveling, etc., etc. I think going into local partnerships is extremely important. Also adapting to the local communication, basically understanding how do you communicate to that market is some really important things. And then I think talking about the Success Nubank in Brazil, basically taking one big market, focusing on that before you move on is a key, because there's so many devils in the details.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think Europe's very interesting, right? Because in theory, you can kind of, passport your services to any country, but we still have IBAN discrimination. I know in Portugal, we have local payment methods where, as someone living in Portugal, you pay your social security via these local payment methods, but it's very difficult for neobanks to become involved in these local payment methods. So as you mentioned, how can a neobank or a fintech be top of wallet for consumers if they don't have that fully operational capability when it comes to payments and IBANs. And I mean, we'll touch upon language and communication, but I met with a girl living in Portugal who worked for Revolut, and she was looking after languages and, how to differentiate, of course, between, Brazilian Portuguese, Portuguese, and succeeding in the Portuguese market. So there's also, so many nuances when it comes to, the language as well. And
yeah, and I mean, it's your money, right? There's a lot about trust. Like there is this new brand, some of your friends said, try this out, but you really are scared. What happens if they go bankrupt? What happens to my money? What is my security? Is it a local law that is taking care of my money and securing them, etc.?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we can't discuss operations without talking about marketing. So Duarte, how important is growth marketing when expanding into new markets, and where does marketing kind of sit overall when thinking about expanding internationally?
It's vital, right? When we talk about the chances of a company succeeding in geographic expansion, they're slim. But I think it's McKinsey said that 4 in 5 attempts of geographic expansion fail, so it's not a silver bullet. It reminds me of those couples who have children to save the marriage, right? It just it doesn't work. It just makes everything more complicated. Yeah. So you have to be very careful when you decide to geo-expand and very strategic. Yeah. And growth marketing is, well, let's just call it marketing, is a vital piece in the preparation for geo-expansion. You have to do market research, competitor research, and you need to really nail down your value proposition. You have to be very confident in the market where you currently are, that your value proposition there is very strong before you decide to move over to another geo. And marketing does all that. And we tend to forget that because we tend to see marketing as one of the 5 Ps, right? It's promotion. Marketing is not just promotion. Marketing is all of the homework that comes before. Looking at a specific geo, choosing the right partner to enter that geo, because probably you'll have to get familiarized with regulation, with local regulation, with the competitive landscape. All of that, marketing should play a vital part in.
Yeah. So I guess from your perspective, where should marketing come in when a business is thinking about expanding internationally, and does that always happen in practice?
It should come before, ideally.
Does it actually?
No, no, not always. Usually what happens is the executive team decides to geo-expand because they think it delivers value to shareholders, or because they believe it'll grow the company just by the sheer fact of being present in more countries. That's not always the case. In Volt, it's actually a great example because geo-expansion for us isn't just about breadth, right? It's actually incredibly strategic because our product is the first global network of real-time payments. Real-time payments are a great solution for merchants due to speed, less chargebacks, and loads of other things. But the problem is they're usually confined within national borders. So you've got Pix in Brazil, right? Real-time payment network. You've got SEPA in Europe. You've got FedNow in the US now being rolled out. But all of these are only confined to the borders of the country. What Volt does is it opens up all of these regional networks to a merchant operating outside of these borders, right? So for us, the more countries we're present in, the better our product becomes. So it's actually part of our ethos. And that's why it's incredibly strategic, and that's why it's probably the right thing to do. So we're currently in Europe, Brazil, Australia, and the UK, and we're expanding to the US and India next on our roadmap. And that is because these are all countries with incredibly strong real-time payment adoption.
Yeah.
In Brazil, you have over 80% of people now using Pix. That's more than any card scheme, which is a great case study.
Yeah, I think Pix and UPI as well in India is another. I mean, I think the two really.
Absolutely, and UPI in India is next.
Yeah. Just one last question with marketing. Does it make sense to centralize the marketing team in one location, or how important is hiring locally?
That has a long and a short answer. The short answer is it depends. The long answer is it depends on at which stage you are as a company. I think that if you're a startup or a scale-up in the fintech industry and you're just starting with geo-expansion, it does not make sense to regionalize your marketing team. Mm-hmm. You can do that centralized. Yeah. You really can. We're doing it now at Volt. We don't have regional marketing teams. We're doing everything centralized. And we're currently supporting geo-expansion in Brazil, for example. Yeah. And the way we do it is we work with the Brazilian regional team to actually study the market, study the competitive landscape, understand what they need, and then localize and regionalize marketing materials for them to use, like website or whatever promotional materials you need.
Yeah. Okay, super. So moving on to cultural and customer experience, one of my favorite topics. And I think it often is overlooked how important understanding cultural nuances is when launching into a new market. So, matching your product, your communications with that local kind of cultural nuance. Ramón, what should fintechs look to achieve when expanding internationally to set themselves up for success in this area?
Yeah, thank you, Meaghan. Well, I like to start from putting in the people's mind one topic, and if in this room there is CEOs, that I think there is a lot of them, or anyway, it doesn't matter in which position you are, you need to understand this. Finance and engineering, IT in general, the number one problem that they are facing is that they forget that they are in the people's business. So we are selling our solutions to other persons. And when we don't interiorize this enough, what happens is that we become like communicators in a way that only the tribe or the very technical people surrounding us understand us. And there comes the next stage of this, which is the scalability, because you have some money, you have some time, you have some investors to satisfy, and your burn rate goes like this, and you are basically not paying attention to what is happening around you. And especially in my experience, Nordic countries versus Southern European countries, because of course, since I am Spanish, I leverage my nationality and my professional career in the Nordics, so I can do both ways business. I have seen this problem all the time. You are scaling, so you are hiring super fast. Let's put people everywhere. Let's get like marketing operations. Let's get commercial, key account managers, everybody. And then we start to go fast. But in the end, what many times happen is that the company's been burning like insane amount of money, and the results are really complicated because you get so little successful people out of that team that you created for it. Yeah. So, if I might add the last part.
Of course.
What I think, as Simon was saying, it's really important to think local. You don't not only have to think local, you need to run a very deep experiment about how people behave in that country. I put you the example of Finland, where I live. If you are from Cyprus, from Greece, from Italy, from Spain, from France, wherever, and you want to sell in that country, which is, I love the country where I am, it's not a critic, but if you want to sell in Finland, and you start to call people just to get an appointment, they're going to block your number. They don't like that you called without Planet because the time...
And they have knives.
Yeah. They have these martini knives that are really popular. But, I mean, the time is so valuated that time for a call needs to be in an agenda also. You know how many companies I saw burning millions until they understood this?
Yep.
So this is my point.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's I think that really highlights the importance. And I mean, yeah, I can imagine, you know, you're setting up customer support, a sales team, and you know, you haven't done your homework and you don't know about these nuances, and then you start, you know, harassing, well, in the minds of the Finns, right? Getting harassed by their local fintech or bank or something. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thinking about technology, and what role technology can play in supporting international expansion. And of course, we have a lot of new AI-powered tools that help us. I mean, I was using Skype the other day, and I saw there was like a function where you could like instantly translate the conversation while making a Skype call. And I tried it and it didn't work. It was absolutely rubbish. But I was like, wow, this is, you know, where the future's going. And at the moment I'm learning Portuguese and I'm like, do I even need to know Portuguese in 5 years, or is there just going to be real-time translation? So I wanted to kind of ask a very broad question about technology and how that stacks up against, you know, culture, operations, and communication. So Simon, I'll start with you.
AI is of course interesting, but let me start with the boring stuff. The boring stuff is like you need of course to have a scalable tech setup. So basically if you want to move into Kenya and you need to integrate into M-Pesa because that's the main thing, you need to be able to have your tech support that quickly. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the things about what is happening in AI, you can do the communication, you can do the marketing, you can do everything, but I think really still you really have to understand the culture and the needs, so tech can give you some of the way. But basically being able to integrate fast, being able to integrate with partners that have the trust, that have the eyeballs, I think it's important.
Okay. Duarte?
I'm a big fan of AI, and thank you, Simon, for taking care of the boring stuff, because I'll move straight to the interesting stuff. It's it's a very exciting time. It really is, especially in marketing. And when we're talking about geo expansion, I mean, just as an example, Google, right? Google pay-per-click, so Google search ads. If, 5 years ago, you would have to be incredibly hands-on when picking keywords to pay for, to bid for, to get to promote your website or your product or whatever it is that you're promoting. Right now, Google uses AI to do broad search, smart bidding, and responsive ads. So that means that if you're moving into a new geo, you can actually perform keyword research to understand the market a little bit better, to understand what the consumers in that market are searching for, and to adapt your product offering, your product messaging, your company positioning to that market. And you can do that in 2 hours.
Built-in market research.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, good luck for the consultants, right? Because you can do all of that as a user now. And then you can use incredible tools like Jasper for localization, for translation. Honestly, it has empowered marketers to be strategy advisors almost when you go into a new geo. So yeah, I'm incredibly excited. I'm using it already, and
nice. Is there a steep learning curve?
No.
No.
That's the best part about generative AI, right? There isn't a steep learning curve. These LLMs, these large language models, they're built for everyday use. So if you have no idea, if you haven't used Google paid search before, you can go on Google, and I'm not advertising for Google, by the way, but you can go on Google. They have the Google Academy in 10, 15 minutes. You learn how to set up a Google paid search campaign, and the AI does everything for you. It's almost like we're getting replaced.
I think also talking about AI, the things about when you, let's say, onboard the first 2,000 users, basically analyzing the patterns on your platform, basically understanding what they're asking the customer support about, how do they sign up, what is your onboarding service like. I'm involved in a product where you basically enable AI in that whole ecosystem from signing up, onboarding, doing whatever you're doing in the product, whereby it's coming back to the product team to basically say, okay, this feature is definitely not working, right? And of course you have the basics analytics before, but AI can really put a lot of fuel into speeding that up.
100%. The trick is having a product team that listens, right? Because you do have the tools that do that. If you're part of an organization that's open to changing product development according to the research and the data that comes out of these tools, then it's fantastic. Then you're set for success.
And I mean also optimizing it. I mean the whole churn problem where you have people onboarding leaving you again, like really figuring out the patterns. Again, we've been having tools for years trying to avoid that, but it's, again, AI can do a lot of things within that field of basically recognizing the patterns and say, okay, here we have one, you have to be quick now because otherwise they're gone.
100%.
And so, you know, when I use ChatGPT, there's always like the disclaimer at the bottom, ChatGPT can make mistakes, please check. Can you trust the information that you're getting and applying these with, you know, paid marketing campaigns, product development? Are we there yet where you can really have that trust, or?
That's, no. The short answer again is no, because you shouldn't look at generative AI as a kind of one and done solution.
Yeah.
It needs to be subbed, right? You always need if you're using it for content creation or you know, for product messaging, whatever it is, you need to have someone that subs the content that comes out of it. If you're using it for research, you have to see that what generative AI does is it crawls the web, right? So, and it's also, basically what it sees is, it gives you the answer that features the most out of what it crawls. So it's not 100% accurate at all. But if you ask them a very technical, a very specific, straightforward question, it will give you that answer. The vaguer you are, the more you have to be hands-on.
Yeah, thank you. Ramón, your perspectives from technology?
Well, from my experience, I use AI strategically very much when I have a doubt, because even I am a communication expert, I doubt sometimes about some culture, or I maybe copy-paste one answer of somebody and then paste it and say, okay, do you think this question is because of this person is very rational or something like this? And then it tries to give me those data points that I search in order to modify my behavior to get what I want to get. But one funny thing I can share, because I use it, but of course I'm not a tech startup, so I don't use it that much. But look, last week I was planning my next trip, which is to London next week. I'm going to Cambridge University to speak about communication and stuff like this. And I have very, very little time there, but I have to see a friend. So I was like, I used one plugin with ChatGPT 4 and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, hey, I have to be in Cambridge, and this time I will be ready. In this time, I will take the train to the center. At this time, my friend lives in this location, and I have my flight at this time. Where I could meet my friend and enjoy at least 1 hour with him. And I got an answer, and I got a suggestion of bars in the area. That was pretty mind-blowing. I was like, okay, I love that. So from that perspective, you can also use it, and it's not extremely code-based professional strategy. It's like daily usage.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard some stories, I don't know how true this is, but families planning their whole vacation with ChatGPT, and it goes like horribly wrong or something, like the wrong hotels are recommended. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be very interesting to see to what extent AI plays this role in like mitigating a lot of the challenges when it comes to, geo expansion and international expansion. So I wanted to wrap up with the last question that kind of talks about the future and tips for success. So in a couple words, in a couple sentences, what are the key things to focus on for success in 2024 and in the next couple years? Simon, I'll start with you, from international expansion perspective, of course.
I mean, I think we touched upon a lot of important points. Of course, AI is extremely important because it can either be your assistant, or you can assist the AI, or it can be an autopilot, depending on which area you're in. But I think really, again, think local, fix the basics in that local market, think about culture. So I would say local, culture, fix the basics.
Thank you, Simon. Duarte?
Study the market, study the competition, the landscape, do customer research. You can use AI for that.
Yes.
Do customer research and consider whether or not you have the right value proposition to go into that market.
Yep.
Do you have product market fit there? How will your product be positioned? How will your company be positioned against competition there?
Yep.
Do your homework before you decide to take what's working in one country and just copy and paste it to another country.
Yep.
It doesn't work like that.
Absolutely. It will be a very expensive mistake, I think, without doing your proper homework. And Ramón, what would be the #1 competitive advantage to scale faster in 2014?
Well, I will frame it in a little bit everything pack, but the first statement is hire really slow, keep the teams small, don't hire to grow faster, just keep them small. You know the story of if you can feed your team with 2 pizzas, it's already too big. So try to keep it small and learn a lot of the local nuances and what people, how the people operate in the local markets. Another thing that I will embrace would be to understand ourselves. And this is often confused with leadership, and this is called auto-leadership. How I'm going to lead on people, or how I'm going to lead introducing my product in a different country if I cannot lead myself, if I cannot be like successful in my own things. And this comes with a principle called morphology. And morphology, for all of you, this is one thing I want you to pack and keep in your pocket. So when you go to your countries, you will remember this part, because I think it's going to be interesting. All of our bodies talk already 33.3% about our behavior. It comes biologically by born. So we are differently, our morphology is different. And then that's one part. The other part comes from the character. The character is given by who has been raising you, whether it's parents, a tutor, or whoever, then you acquire a part of that. And the third part, and last, 33.3%, it's your personality, right? Who you want to be. When you understand who you are, in which level you are, there is a magic thing that happens, that you stop waiting from others answers in the same fashion that you like. Because people is just different. And when you are scaling in a different country, think about for a scale-up. If I'm speaking with Duarte, for example, okay, can I be brave?
Absolutely.
Duarte is, compared to me, I'm rounded, I'm big, and that makes me generally more emotional person. Rounded people is more emotional in general. Duarte is more long. He's not super thin, but you can feel his bones. He's probably good at sports. So it reminds me to Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, this kind of people. Really rational, but he has a good thing that he smiles more than them. So the point that he's smiling is that he is positive active. That means that he embraces the new things coming in a very in a positive way. Even he knows he needs to analyze them because he has a rational temperament, but still the first wall is not a no. For example, think about Elon Musk. Elon Musk is the kind of guy that it will say no straight away. Will say, hey, just don't fuck around here. Give me my time. I need to know. I need to analyze this in private, right? So understanding this, understanding who you are, is going to give you a competitive advantage to go anywhere you want faster and to get into personal relationships with your customers. And guess what? It will give you also a better life within your family, your kids, your spouse or husband, whoever. It will help you navigate that. Because in the end, all of this, 33%, 33%, 33%, if you can balance them, it's balance. And balance is growth.
Super. On that note, that very positive, inspiring note, thank you, Ramón. That was fantastic. We will wrap up the panel, and just for any fintechs or anyone looking to talk more about international expansion, these gentlemen should be available to chat further at the next coffee break. So thank you again, gentlemen. Really insightful, and yeah, thanks again.